There's an anchor, a CNN anchor, Fareed Zakaria. You also tweeted his statement saying that India has the capability of replacing China economically and technology wise.
There is only one country in the world that has the scale to replace China. And if you're trying to create a non-Chinese ecosystem, if you want to make massive amounts of consumer electronics or iPhones, only India has the scale to be able to do that. If you want to make massive amounts of pharmaceuticals, only India has the ability to do that. If you want to, for the next pandemic, you don't want to be reliant on China, because many of these things we're talking about are low margin goods where you need to make them in massive scale. That's not going to be done in Texas or California. That's not even going to be done in Europe. Only India can play the role of the next China with regard to that kind of manufacturing.
What do you have to say about that? Because there's a lot of commotions going on again
That's
in the South Asia side.
That is I think, a Hindustan Times journalist interviewing the CNN anchor Fareed Zakaria. Fareed Zakaria, I called him a nitwit because he never say anything original. He's not an expert in anything, but he's brought to on CNN to be the propaganda piece, to pretend he's an expert, and to do the midwit spin on everything. And the thing what he was saying about India is very comforting to American ears and to Indian ears, saying, "Oh, India will replace China as the next manufacturing superpower." Guess what? They have been saying that since 2000. You can go find an Economist article saying that India will surpass China, right? This was 25 years ago. But the gap is keep growing, and I explained this is actually not happening because a lot of right now there is a move of manufacturing out of China, particularly more labor intensive manufacturing, because the wage has risen in China. But those a lot of these supply chain, their first choice of diversification, the first choice is actually Southeast Asia, because Southeast Asia is culturally and geographically, it has cultural and geographic proximity to China. A lot of Southeast Asia is in the same time zone as China. So if when the Chinese companies move part of their supply chain to Vietnam, for example, they don't have a time difference to deal with, right? I mean, it's for people who have worked in like a organization where you have a supply chain spread all over the world. It can be a pain in the ass when you try to coordinate, across multiple time zones. But so Southeast Asia will get the first dip. Particularly Vietnam, because Vietnam, all the countries, is most culturally similar to China, have a very similar political system, and they are also physically closer to all the Chinese ports. So Vietnam is going to get the first dip on manufacturing coming out of China, and then some of them will go to Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, all in the same neighborhood. And in fact, right now there's a lot of Chinese capital investment in all these countries, in all of Southeast Asia. It's part of the trend. And what is actually happening is not just supply chain moving out of China. It's actually entire Southeast Asia is getting integrated with the Chinese supply chain. Whereas India,
feeling low on motivation or focus lately? Stay sharp, stay strong, stay naturally you. Click below to learn more and experience Natural Asian Vitality Secret. Shalated.
Whereas India, the Indian government and also the Indian corporate media, which is controlled by essentially a bunch of oligarchs, they're very hostile towards the Chinese investment. Once upon a time there was a lot of Chinese investment in the Indian tech startup scene, and that threatened the monopoly by the Ambanis, and so they, Ambani and Andani, they are the major financial backer of the Modi government. So they got Modi government to shut down the Chinese investment into Indian tech startup space, and so this is a collusion of both the Indian oligarchs and some of the more nationalist element of the Indian elite to keep the Chinese investment out. So of course, when you make the investment impossible or not viable in India, of course they will go to Southeast Asia, which is a lot closer, it's more culturally similar. And so in a way, I think I see Southeast Asia will emerge as a big winner. Because as China rises, you will lift all boats in the neighborhood. India, India could have work with China, if they choose to, because there's a lot of Chinese company that had expressed interest to invest in India, to open factories, but the Indian government made it so difficult that now a lot of Chinese companies are shying away. This happened to BYD, for example, and this is why I think unless India fixes its own problem, they're not going to be the next China anytime soon. Right now, only thing they have comparable size population, but if you actually look at the size of human capital, there's still a wide gap because in China, if you compare the literacy rate, right, in today's world, that makes a whole difference. As the knowledge based economy is more important. The Indian literacy rate is still lag far behind that of China, and and it's going to take a long time for India to fix that problem, and invest to improve their infrastructure more. So it's but a lot of Indian elite, including people in diaspora like Fareed Zakaria, they just do hand waving. That's like think by magic everything is gonna fix itself. That the problem is even though the Anglo media is always talking up India. Like India is a great brown hope for the Anglo save the Anglo Empire, but they are not even voting with their own pockets. The multinationals, they are not investing in India the way they keep on investing in China because at the end of the day, you know, money that's it comes to the bottom line is whether they will make money, and China is still far more attractive destination for foreign direct investment than India still is because like there's a lot of regulations in India that actually make foreign investment in India very difficult. Yeah, so I mean, India still has a lot of obstacle to overcome, but at the current trajectory, at the current rate, they're not anywhere close to replace China in manufacturing anytime soon.